Hey guys, welcome back to the Greenback Voyage podcast. My name is Shravan,
And I'm your co host, Joe.
and this week we are looking more towards, America's ambition, would you say? There have been a lot of, issues that Biden has addressed upon in the past week, and some other companies have addressed on that. We shall talk shortly, but first, let's start off with our usual COVID-19 update. And yeah, it's it's been 1 year since that infamous Rudy Gobert incident.
Right. But I just want to say, a lot of things are changing. I think this week we're having a big turnaround in terms of what's going on in this country. We reached our 100 million doses administered milestone that Biden set. Um, and we should be on track to giving everyone the vaccine within a couple of months. Maybe going into 2022, around springtime, I think the majority of the population will get vaccinated. Um, yeah, so it's all really, really good news. As we've seen, the treasury yields are also recovering. Investors are expecting a nice recovery in the economy coming. Airlines and oil industry continues to rally based on the news. So we're having our big turnaround this year. I mean, it's been a year since COVID started, and looks like we're on track to getting back to normal.
hmm Yeah, I do have to agree with you that I think we're producing about 2.23 million doses. We're administering them to people like per day. Um, I mean, not everything is good news. I don't know if you've heard about AstraZeneca, but they've been having issues since the FDA hasn't technically, approved the vaccine yet. There's like over 300 million doses in their lockers right now that may expire. Um, and yeah, the other countries, like, within the EU and everyone, they want those vaccines, but the US won't let them ship it out to anywhere else right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think last week we also talked about how Mexico wanted some vaccines from the U.S. and
hmm
we're not giving any of our supply. So interesting choice here. I didn't even know that 300 million doses is going to expire. I mean, that's huge. It's a waste of
Yeah,
capital and
I mean, it's a very small
possibility of
chance.
loss of life.
Yeah, so it's still a very small chance that they'll all expire, but there is a good possibility, say for if like, the freezers they're in kind of shut down or something with the amount of energy they're using. So yeah, they're kind of concerned about that right now. But yeah, I mean, we had the trillion, I mean, almost $2 trillion stimulus package released on Friday. Um, and I think,
That was fast.
I know a couple of people, including my parents and myself, we've all received our $1,400 checks already, which is
Oh,
insanely
what?
fast.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
a lot of
insanely
people
fast.
got their checks this weekend.
hmm
They started sending out. But we passed this stimulus passage really fast. I didn't expect it to be passed this fast. Just Congress passing it and then Senate making some changes, and immediately within a week we got this signed. So that's good. Um, but I think there are a lot of we discovered the Affordable Care Act. They had some changes and some stuff regarding that in the package as well regarding healthcare.
hmm Yeah, so got to be on the watch out for that. You never know what amendments they might introduce. But I guess just with the stimulus package alone, there are lots of analysts saying that it would be the nation's fastest annual pace growth, economic growth since like the early 1890s. Around like 5.5 to around 7%, they're saying will hit. So yeah,
In terms of GDP growth.
yeah,
Wow,
which
and that's
it's insane.
that's actually about the same as China's projections actually too.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, but I mean, they're not done there. I mean, Biden had a recent speech, right? And he was calling on for like a clean energy, climate change strategy, along with like an infrastructure bill that's ranging from like another $2 to $6 trillion. So yeah, I mean they're just pushing this as fast as they can before I guess the Republicans even know what's going on.
I was looking at this chart showing government expenditure and the Fed, their balance sheet over presidents since Reagan, and it's just an exponential graph. So you have, each president just increasing the budget and spending as we go, and increase from Bush to Obama to Trump and now Biden, and it's just exponential growth. And where's like this going to end with trillions of dollars? I mean, in 2009, like people when the government was giving the stimulus package, people were like, oh my god, triple-digit $billion package, this is insane. And now we seem to be passing stimulus packages in the trillions with ease, like no one's questioning. I mean,
Yeah.
$2 trillion stimulus package, I mean, on top of the nearly $1 trillion Trump passed, and then the CARES Act. I mean, within a span of a year, we've injected more than maybe $5 trillion, including like Fed purchases and things like that. So that's a huge amount of money, or a huge amount that's been pumped into the economy in just a year alone. So how will the economy be able to hold all this and sustain growth, or are we going to enter a period of possible hyperinflation?
Yeah, that's the thing, because there are, those same analysts that I said predicting the U.S. economic growth, they've also predicted that the 10-year Treasury yields will hit 2% by the end of the year, if not even by Q2 itself.
That's possible. I mean,
yeah,
at this rate, it's definitely possible.
So I mean, you can't really spend all money in the world and just make it up out of thin air. I mean, at some point, there's going to be a correction that we're seeing right now. Who knows? Maybe like the bull run that we've had from 2009 to 2020 would have ended, and like for the next 5-6 years, we'll just be in like a stagnant economy. I mean, right now we're still in a bullish economy, but I mean, we never know what can happen in the future. But there is going to be some repercussions by all these, stimulus packages being passed in record times as well.
Yeah, this guy named Carl Icahn, right? Or Icahn.
Yeah.
He was talking about this, this huge debt cycle that we're in, and that it will come to an end, in the coming, 1 or 2 decades.
Yeah,
and
but he's the most pessimistic guy on earth. He's even more pessimistic than I am on a lot of issues.
When you see a lot of things that are happening right now, I mean, it does. I mean, the credit, people are spending so much on credit card. The credit card debt's increasing exponentially. With the government spending trillions of dollars without having. I mean, it's all fiat currency, but of course we got off the gold standard, and it's just printing money out of thin air. That's essentially what I mean. It sounds funny, but it's essentially what's happening. So. Yeah, we'll see how. The next decade will be very interesting to see what would happen.
Yeah, I know they're wanting to tackle the 2% inflation average over the next couple of years, but
it's not even met their target, right?
Yeah, I mean,
at the moment,
there's no way that $5 trillion into the economy will not provide over 2% inflation. The only issue at this point is just the money circulation right now, which is at an all-time low because everyone just wants to keep the money in their own accounts and not really spend it outside. Yeah, but once they start spending it, that inflation will shoot up. So yeah, we got to be on the watch out for that. But yeah, other than the weekly inflation, whatever nonsense, there are some other policies being passed out there. The House recently passed 2 gun safety bills to expand and strengthen background checks. So, yeah, there were 2 measures that were passed. So the first one was passed on Thursday, and it just requires shoppers that are shopping online or at gun shows to have, more thorough background checks vetted before they receive a weapon. Currently they're not really required to do so, but hopefully in the future they can. then that was passed with, I think, a 217 to 209 type of route. But then the second bill, which was a bit more controversial, is the Charleston loophole, which basically lets the FBI conduct a thorough background check for up to 10 days on any purchases that are made in the US. And that was barely passed. Like, I think that was like 209 to 204 that it passed the House.
So is the Charleston loop like let's say a person goes to Walmart, buys a gun, the FBI would investigate that purchase and that person for 10 days?
I mean, I don't think the specifics have been laid out. I would assume what would happen is that before they're even allowed to like think about purchasing a gun, the FBI, they'd have to probably infer with some organization in the federal government, and then once they get like a check approval or something, then they can go buy the gun. That's what I would hope they would do, because I mean, if not, then what's the point of really buying a gun, letting the FBI conduct a background check? I mean, they could easily as well just conduct a mass murder within those 10 days that the FBI conducts its check-in.
Right. I guess what the conservatives and Republicans are probably interpreting this as is probably like too intrusive on the buyer. So that's probably what they're looking at. I mean, having so many background checks, I mean, that's good, but as if you look at it in a conservative perspective, they probably think it's too intrusive in their personal freedom or whatnot. So
yeah. So they're probably going to do a filibuster, if anything, in the Senate before it even gets to a vote there.
Yeah, it probably will get passed. I mean, with
you think so?
Majority, I think they could get it passed.
I think it'll be tough with the filibusters.
Did they specifically say like they're going to filibuster the bill?
Not yet, but
you can
override
filibusters now.
Don't they need like a 60 majority to override it?
I'm not sure, but
I'm pretty sure it's like a 3/5 majority.
Right.
They need to override it.
But just seeing like how fast some of these bills are getting passed because of the Democratic majority, it seems like they'll probably compromise on some things, but they'll probably get these gun legislation passed. Yeah, it's all good news. I mean, having more regulation is good for us.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the Republicans will take like too long to start doing some of these, because we got tax increases coming up as well with the Biden administration and all, so they can't take too much of this Democrats' policies on them.
Well, we talked about the Fed here. Let's talk about the ECB, the European Central Bank's policy. Looks like they're going to buy more Eurozone debt. Yeah, I was looking at like the German bond yields and all the UK and Japan. Those are all increasing sharply as well. So looks like to counter what's happening in Europe, they're going to buy up more debt. That should, I mean, I think Europe's also one of the hardest hit countries. So it looks like they're going the same path as what the U.S. Fed's doing here.
Yeah, they're actually way late onto the party from what I heard. The Fed quickly implemented a strategy within a month of the stock market crash last year, but the ECB has not been as aggressive nor as responsive as the Fed has been with concerns or other situations along those lines. So yeah, they may be in for a slower growth than what the US is predicted to be, and because they're so interconnected with the US economy, their inflation may also rise a tremendous amount.
Yeah,
even if they don't want it to. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the US, I mean, we are seeing a lot of good improvements with unemployment. We're beating ADP numbers and the numbers that are released on Thursdays. So seems like we're on a good track to get back to. I think our unemployment is around 6% now.
I think
Probably
it's
like 6 or
yeah,
six or
somewhere around
7%.
6. Last I checked.
Yeah. The lowest we were was around 3.4 or 5 under Trump. We to get there back under Biden's administration will I think will be a tough challenge for him, especially with what's going on right now. Trying to get that number down will be kind of tough. We would need a lot of economic activity to start immediately within the coming months. Especially in the summer, we should like it should be like going back to normal where we were in January last year. That type of thing should be in the summer, but there will always be that fear factor. I mean, it's been a year since. I mean, if you go like to a store and even if you're vaccinated and other people are, you're still gonna have that thought back in your head, just thinking about COVID and other viruses out there, and just the fear factor is always going to be in play. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, no
Especially for
doubt.
old people.
I mean, that's the way with anything. Anything bad happens. I mean, in 2008, when financial crisis hit, we were all wary about banks again, even though 1928 basically the same thing happened. In 2000, we were wary of tech stocks, which why most investors went into MBS. It started off that. So yeah, it's kind of like a cycle.
A good example would. I mean, I think we'll definitely recover within a few years and go back to and just forget about the whole fear and viruses. It'll just be like, in 2001 when we had the 9/11 incident attack. Everyone it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, you had some kind of discrimination and racism against some Muslim and brown people because of it, and we kind of saw the same thing against Asian Americans and Chinese people, and then you had the fear factor of people not scared of getting on a plane and things like that, and now we have the same thing, right? We have a fear factor of going outside and getting the flu. And as a result of the attacks, we had increase in security, and kind of the same thing is happening here. We had lockdowns and things like that, and all these test kits that are going to be employed in the airports and travel centers and things like that. So it's very similar, and I think now we really don't think twice about 9/11 when we get on a plane, right?
Yeah,
or
we
about,
we bitch about the security all the time.
Yeah. So we'll probably get back to normal in a few months or maybe a few years. Complete normal, where we just forget about COVID and go on with our lives.
Yeah, hopefully the economy gets into another bull run, especially when we are starting to invest.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
well, our generation's okay, but if you look at the millennials, I mean, they are the ones who got hard hit.
Yeah, I mean, 2008, they all came out of college.
And 2000. And tech bubble, and then financial crisis, and now this, and their wages haven't even increased, in their college education. It's millennials are one of the hardest hit generations out there right now. So hopefully for us, we continue our bull run for another decade, because we just started investing. So
hope to God.
Speaking of investing, NASDAQ has completely had a turnaround this week. Great rallies back. I mean, we've not hit all-time highs, but the S&P 500 is, I think, didn't the S&P 500 hit all-time highs? Maybe in the futures?
It hit intraday, I think, but I don't think it closed all-time high.
Oh, okay. So, but still, that's great. I mean, S&P 500 has rebounded to all-time highs. The NASDAQ is still kind of lagging behind, obviously. The Dow is on fire. It's just popping off, and yeah, that's probably. I think the Nasdaq would recover in this month. We should see all-time high pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's still just concerned about the treasury yields and how they're going to impact it. So yeah, we got to watch out for that, especially with the high growth place that we have. Maybe more wise to go into more value plays still.
Yeah. I mean, you can always hedge your positions, but if you want to go cash, increase cash, that's also good. Maybe buy into value stocks as well. So, Um, well, let's continue on to what's going on in New York.
Oh
Cuomo
God.
he's got, I think, two more. I mean, since our podcast last week and we talked about Cuomo, I think he has two more aides that has come out saying of sexual misconduct. And the FBI investigation, I think, is still going on against him, and now he has a impeachment investigation. So
Yeah,
it's coming down on him. I mean, I think he could get impeached.
and I don't even know if you heard the worst part, where his advisors or anyone who was working for him, basically, they started harassing reporters, the people who were trying to reach out and talk about Cuomo harassing him, and they started harassing them again, on top of that, on top of everything that they've done so far. And I mean, if that's not hypocrisy upon hypocrisy, I don't even know what is at this point.
Yeah, and you also see a lot of staff and aides leaving his office because of this. So he is going through a huge shitstorm right now.
Yeah, I mean, would he be the first ever legislator to ever be impeached if it happens? Because he's not going to resign from the way it's looking.
Well, I don't know. I mean, well, he's the governor, right? As far as governor impeachment goes, I don't know if he's the first one. But that would be interesting.
That would be insane. We
Yeah,
didn't
he doesn't
impeach
want to. He
Trump.
doesn't want to. He doesn't want to get out. He's saying he's not going to resign. And actually, the majority of the New York residents, or polls show in New York that people don't want him to resign. And it's kind of an embarrassment to the whole state of New York, right? That could be the reason why they don't want him to resign. I mean, it's a saying on the city as a whole, or the state as a whole. So, yeah, it will probably see some sort of decision regarding this in the upcoming several weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think Schumer and some other Democrats are voting to impeach him as well, if possible. But yeah, just to hear all this happening and he's not even getting any repercussions from it's not right.
Yeah, he needs to. He apparently signed a bill saying that limiting some of his powers,
That's
emergency
bullcrap.
Yeah, that's no, buddy. That's not gonna save you from anything. Well, there's no such accountability in that. I mean, that's nothing basically. So, we should see some type of justice coming from this investigation. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty likely he would get impeached based on this.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't, then at this point it's just impossible to impeach someone.
Well, let's talk about NFTs. It's been going crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
I
seen
mean,
all these NBA Top Shots getting millions of dollars in value. I mean, that's insane.
yeah, and there was the $69.3 million one with the digital art that was sold recently. Um, I mean, it's insane. I never thought Ethereum would be used for this. I thought it would actually just be used for regular purchases, but
Interesting thing. I mean, the NFTs are running on this Ethereum blockchain, right? And now Ethereum is going Ethereum 2.0 blockchain, so it's going to be a completely new system with upgrades and completely new token system and things like that. So probably people will start doing the same thing on Ethereum too, but yeah, they're currently doing on Ethereum, the current blockchain of Ethereum. But going back to NFT, I mean, if our listeners don't know, it's basically a non-fungible token. You basically get like a barcode for the thing you want to buy, and it's just your token, right? It's basically a digital asset that you solely own. You own the transaction, and that's it, right? But to see, I think NBA Top Shot is one of the popular ones. You can buy you can go on the website and you can, I was looking at the Celtics ones, and you can buy a Jaylen Brown dunk or a Jason Tatum dunk, basically for some amount of money, and you own that transaction. And you just, I guess you buy it because you just want to flex the money, or
I don't
you
know.
believe it will appreciate it. you appreciate in value. But I mean, most of the things that most of the NFT buys, I'm pretty sure it's just a flex that you have money.
I don't know. I don't understand why. Just you have Ethereum. It's being transacted through Ethereum. Why not just hold Ethereum instead? Why why hold this? This is nothing. It's gonna be nothing in a couple years. I mean, I say that,
I mean,
but then didn't that
like,
flipping
we
banana on a
we
wall
have
sell
we
for
have
like
no
10 mil?
idea. Right, but we have no idea where, like, this is a completely new front. I mean, people buy art. You know, we've seen like people buy insane art, like people buying millions, people putting millions of dollars for like a white canvas. I mean, that's crazy art, and this is kind of like another facet of what's going on. I mean, um, I mean, digital art is pretty cool. I mean, you can pay whatever you want. You go on Pinterest or whatnot and buy, digital art, whatnot, and but the NFT craze, I mean, that's just on another level. I mean, people are getting, I mean, this is a market just for buying digital art, but what's going on right now, there's a lot of fraud going on, a lot of scams, and the whole market is kind of getting speculative with the NFTs. There's not much regulation on this. I mean, it's completely decentralized. It's running on Ethereum blockchain, and it's kind of become a breeding ground for speculation.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I don't even think it's art anymore. This is just, in the financial sense, it's just another asset that's trying to be created for the sole purpose of diversification in other industries.
right,
That's
I
really
mean,
what
it's
it
just
is.
it's literally like buying art, right? You go to an art show, you want to buy some art for $100 or $1,000. People are just buying digital assets here. You're buying the transaction, and you own that piece of, you own that digital asset. That's it. Um, and I guess it could appreciate in value if there's another buyer out there, but you own this. It's just a single token. There's nothing else. You can exchange it like you buy a Bitcoin and you exchange it with someone else. This is just one single token that you own. Um, so, um, to me, when I see like $1 million buy or like like the one we just have here, the $69.3 million buy, to me it's just like, hey, I have money, I'm gonna do this. It's just a flex, to buy NFTs. That's how I see it. I mean, personally, I'm not gonna buy anything regarding NFTs. I'm not gonna lay my fingers on anything here. So yeah, it's
You
kind of
know,
crazy how insane this has gone.
you know what else is insane? General Electric. Their CEO has been doing bits there right now. He announced an 8-for-1 reverse stock split, which is insane. I think, total outstanding shares right now is like 8.8 billion. So seeing that decrease to 1.1 billion, I don't think I've ever seen as large as a reverse split. But yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons they're trying to do this is just to get back into the Dow Jones, because they are price weighted. So an attractive price figure for them right now would somewhere be between the $80 and the $200 range for their type of valuation. And this reverse stock split would get them into the $90 range per share.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a huge turnaround with the new management here,
Hmm.
and we kind of seen that since early summer last year. Um, yeah, I think they posted a profit right last quarter, after a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
that's
looks
good.
like there's a turnaround in this company, uh, and I guess they're also doing another merger with some company, some AirCap.
Yeah,
They
they're
also
winding down GE Capital basically, which at the time was like competing with the likes of BlackRock, JP Morgan, Bank of America, and all, before the financial crisis. And then, once that hit, their entire capital just fell apart.
Oh,
Um,
that's so interesting. So they have like their own investment banking like firm.
it's not investment banking, it's just more banking. So like, it's more financing. So a GM has sort of like their own financing thing. So it's not. It's like, why go to a bank where, if you buy like a Chevy, you can just finance with GM itself, and they can give you a better rate. So it's kind of like that.
So they just have their own in-house firm to do all that financing stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what they're doing is they have like their jet leasing unit, and they're merging with that with AirCap for about I think $30 billion. So that's a huge influx of cash for them, which they can use to kind of elevate their financials and maybe get into some other industries that look to be innovative for the future.
Well, speaking of GM, looks like they're going to back a new EV startup company after what happened with Nikola. Do you want to continue on like what's going
Yeah,
on with
I
them?
mean they backed in this company, Lordstone Motors, I think a while back. It was kind of small news then because Nikola and GM were kind of the hype then. But this time, Hindenburg, the short seller kind of advisor, you would say, they're accusing Lordstone Motors of doing the same thing as Nikola, basically intricate fraud, is what they're calling it. And for GM, this is like a huge step back because now they've backed two EV startup companies, both of which Hindenburg are saying that are just failing. Like they haven't shown any proof at all that they're going to survive.
Yeah, I
So,
mean,
yeah.
Nikola was just an insane story. It's a crazy story I've read. I mean, you've seen like the ads of their trucks, right?
Hmm.
Like I remember seeing it when they released it on their YouTube channel and Twitter, and looking at it, I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool truck. And then a few months later, Hindenburg comes out, and they say like the truck had no battery or any type of drivetrain, and it was just rolled down a hill.
Yeah. I mean,
That's insane.
props to the video camera guy
It
on
looks so
that.
real. Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, imagine like the team on a hill, just like, okay. Here's the thing. So we're gonna set up some camera units down there, and we're just gonna roll down this truck, and just
just take out
and
the
just
blocks, folks.
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, the fact that Hindenburg's going after Lordstown Motors, that's just what is General Motors doing? I mean, backing two frauds like this. I mean, wow, this is. I mean, if Hindenburg comes out to be true on this, I mean, that's crazy for General Motors management. I mean,
Yeah. And it's kind of crazy with Nikola because their CEO, Trevor Milton, at the time, like he has, I think, 91 million shares outstanding, which is right now worth still a couple $1 billion. So for like a made-up company basically that he created off of one truck and superb marketing, this man is a multi-billionaire.
yeah, they have no revenue, no product to sell, and it's $1 billion. It's more than $1 billion valuation. That's insane. That's just how speculative the market has become. Yeah, I mean, so and I guess it's all the EV frenzy that's caused this, right? Anything that
Hmm.
has like electric vehicles to it, any company that has like EV next to it, it's kind of it's got this huge bullish sentiment around it. I mean, it everyone wants to get on the EV hype, and when there's a new startup and people just start pumping, dumping, all these just this huge speculative market that we're in regarding EVs. I mean, so many. I mean, like even like I think like the ticker symbol is Solo, but I don't know. I mean, the name's like electromechanical vehicles or something like that.
Yeah.
Same thing. No, like absolute. Like, I think the revenue is like below 10 million, and their valuation's nearly like over $500 million. I mean,
Hmm.
anything with electric vehicles is just insanely overvalued. So I mean, even like if you look at Tesla, I mean, insanely overvalued. It was, and then we had the correction, but it went to almost $1 trillion. I mean,
Yeah,
so
we were thinking
I
it
mean,
would just go to the moon.
yeah. I mean, people are buying the dip. I mean, if you saw like Ark Investment, um, they had some big purchases of Tesla, and overall their holdings. Basically, Kathy Wood went on CNBC and said that this dip was a blessing for them, and they see that they're saying that their conviction is strong, and this dip is going to have buying at this dip it's just going to increase their appreciation in their funds. So I mean, for her to say, I mean, this dip is a blessing, that just says something. I think she's incredibly bullish on these companies. But I mean, if you look at their funds, I mean, almost like a quarter down since February. I mean,
Yeah.
I think some of the funds dropped like 25% since their highs, and I mean,
Some of
I
them,
bought in.
some of them
Yeah,
wiped
I
their
mean,
gains for 2021.
yes, I think so. Maybe they probably went back, but when I was buying in, they were down like 5% year to date this year. Um, so hopefully, I mean, I hopefully these the ARK funds go back up. I expect. I mean, I think ARK buying the dip buy on ARK was good, and I'm pretty bullish on their funds for the coming years, and I just want to be a part of the story. I mean, with ARK, so. But
Yeah.
yeah, we just got to look out for the rising yields. That's about it.
One ETF that I thought would be, you know, kind of hit like ARK and all, the high growth stocks would have been Drive, um, like the EV autonomous ETF, but it's done pretty well to be like it's pretty stable. I mean, the past couple months.
Right. I mean, if you look at their holdings, right, it's really well balanced with a lot of strong blue chip stocks, a lot of good names, popular names out there, and it's also kind of meshed in with all the speculative stocks like Plug Power, Tesla, Neo, and all these other stocks that had incredible rallies in 2020. So that's why it's very balanced, and that's why I really like the fund. They have Apple, Plug Power, and it's really nice and balanced for good growth. So that's why they've been really stable, and their ETF actually has performed very well in 2020. I think it was up 60% for the year. Obviously, it's not comparable to like if you look at ARK, they had over 200% or something, but was it 200% or was it like 100 or something? But
it was insane. I think 130% average out.
yeah, so of course the Drive has less volatility, but in terms of stability and exposure to the EV sector, I mean, Drive has done very well with the team. The fund team has done very well.
Yeah.
With the fund. So
yeah, I think they're switching back into those big techs at like a good time when the EV hype might start dying down a bit.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, their top 5 holdings had like Neo and Tesla. I think 2 months before when you looked at it, and this last report shows that now Google is actually their top holding, which is very interesting. This is a autonomous and electric vehicles ETF, and they have Google as their top. So they're probably betting on Google's, what's the self-driving technology that they have, and they probably think that would be one of the stepping stones into autonomous taxis and things like that. So maybe the management has conviction that Google will be leading the robo-taxi industry. So
yeah, and Tesla, I think it was at an 11% weight when I got in back in November.
That's right.
And now it's I think like 2.8.
Right. I mean, it was dropping as we came to a close in 2020. It was around 10%, then 7%, then 5%, and now it's down to 2%. So looks like the management at Drive Fund think they're kind of losing their conviction on Tesla, or they're kind of cashing out of the profits, and they're going into some of the stable companies that actually have a plan to execute all the EV plans that they have. So I think Google's a great bet when it comes to robotaxis. Microsoft also has they acquired this autonomous driving company, and Apple is also getting into the game. So it makes sense for Drive management to increase the weighting in those stocks. Because they're kind of stable plays, right? You can't really go wrong with these companies, so makes sense.
Yeah, but one company that's really not going into it is Facebook, and they're really pushing rather into augmented reality, which it's no surprise that they are, but they kind of recently announced that they have nearly 10,000 employees working for their augmented and virtual reality devices division. And right now, I think according to the information in the New York Post, that's around 20% of its entire workforce, which is, it's like double or triple like Twitter's total employees as well, which is insane. They're really pushing for that.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook can definitely become a leader in the augmented space. They have their Oculus Rift and the products with that, and the Oculus software. So, augmented reality has a huge future.
Yeah,
I think it's
especially
yeah,
with
it
no
has.
other firms really focusing on it. They're all focusing on EV right now. So this could be
I
a
mean, if
good
you look at
play.
if like yes, I mean augmented AR has a incredible future in the world. I mean, if you look at like Microsoft's HoloLens and their advertisements, you can see like the applications in manufacturing, and all sort in the auto industry, and just I think in one of their ads it was like deconstructing like an engine, and also like deconstructing a human body for medical students. So if you can make augmented reality and the headsets very affordable and cheap for a lot of people, especially like education, in also applying it in manufacturing and all these like auto sector and everything, AR can really help, and with a lot of in a lot of industries. Just if Facebook could definitely be a leader in this space. So Facebook investors should be pretty bullish on the stock if they start to gain some market share in the AR sector.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's all for domestic news right now. Let's move on to some foreign affairs. We can start off with China. I think we have lots of China news to go on.
Right. This past 2 months, I think Chinese stocks have fallen harder than the U.S. market stocks. It could I think it could be like worrying effect of, first of all, the yields rising, and also some of the trade. I think the chip shortage that they had, and also the trade what was it? Trade wars that U.S. and China are going through right now regarding the semiconductors. So yeah, I think like the Hong Kong listed tech stocks dropped like 25 or 26% in less than 3 weeks. So I don't know if the Nasdaq fell to that extent. It was probably like 15% or 16%, maybe less. But yeah, Chinese stocks had a huge dip. So interesting enough, I mean, I think this last year the capital inflow in China in terms of investment was larger than the U.S. So this could be a dipping opportunity for some global investors.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but I mean, going off on that, we have, I think, the U.S. chief customer for agricultural goods. I think China is again buying them, even with the trade war going on, and it's doing so more than it did previous to when all this trade war business got started, which is kind of a surprise. Because I mean,
Yeah, our I think crops and meat exports have ticked up rather steeply in the I think last quarter, I believe.
mhm.
So in 2020 years, so that's pretty good for the U.S. farmers here.
Yeah, and then I guess last week we were talking about China's kind of aggressions towards their internment camps as well as what they're placing in Hong Kong. Uh, I guess kind of going off on that, their legislator approved electoral changes that would sort of put their pro-Beijing loyalists firmly in charge of both Hong Kong and squeeze opposition groups from those elected offices, which is really a huge move. It's still kind of crazy to see that no one around the world is talking about this anymore. It was
Yeah,
such huge news
we
in
were
2019, and now we're in
yeah we were talking about how
2021.
like yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I mean that's it. You can go ahead.
Yeah, so we were talking about this right a few podcasts ago, how they're handpicking some of the pro Beijing politicians and throwing out pro freedom in Hong Kong politicians. So it's pretty much like it's kind of like a miniature coup that's going on in China with complete change in the Hong Kong government, and yeah, I mean also going on with the Uyghur situation in China. I think the EU is taking some action against China and targeting with them with some sanctions. since back in 1989 when the Tiananmen Square incident happened. So they're going to have some. I think they could impose sanctions on China.
Oh,
Yeah. So
yeah, that would be
what's
huge.
going? I mean, yeah, that would be a big move against China. So I mean, if you look at Biden's stance on this, he was very lenient. I mean, he called it like, oh, they're doing whatever they want, and it's their policy. It's kind of like their culture. But with the Uyghur situation in China, I mean, it's absolutely egregious, and we should take a big stance on what's going on. And the EU collectively targeting them with sanctions is a good step in that direction. I think we need to be firm and aggressive against China regarding this issue.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised the US hasn't said anything about anything that's going on still. Yeah, I mean, regardless of what the citizens think, the US itself should be, I mean, kind of focusing on this. But
It's a very sensitive issue. There's a lot of implications regarding this, right?
mhm.
Speaking out, like a country speaking out against China would have huge implications regarding trade and possibilities of conflict and things like that. So I think like the U.S. and India are also teaming up in terms of policy against China. So it looks like a lot of countries are starting to stand up against Chinese aggression. So we could see some conflict arising in the coming months.
Yeah, but the issue
here.
with India is Modi's really not going to let the US do anything the US really wants to in India. So,
Right. This is more like a issue, like a partnership against China and their expansion. So
yeah, but knowing the US, they'll probably get involved in Indian politics now if they do end up partnering with them, because that's how the US rolls.
yeah, and we got some elections coming up with the Lok Sabha and things like that, and state elections. So yeah, I think maybe the BJP will continue to maintain power in India right now.
Yeah. Yeah, but I
And
mean,
I think like some of the so usually like the states in like the southern states in India tend to be more secular than the northern ones. And right now, there's a lot of increased support for BJP candidates in these southern states. So BJP is continuing to gain huge influence in a lot of states, and it seems like they will continue to gain power across the country. So that's interesting. What's going on in India? So
yeah, I mean,
it's like, yeah.
definitely see what happens there, especially with all the legislation, the protests with the agricultural industry that's going on right now. But yeah, I mean, it's hard for us to really understand what's going on without us being there. So, but yeah, other than that, I mean, we have Israel. I think you can talk more about what they're up to right now.
Right, so Israel and the U.S. are continuing to take action against what's going on with Iran. I think last week, in January when we killed Soleimani and Iran attacked our base in Iraq.
Yeah.
Same thing happened last week. Actually, Iran with some of their proxy militants attacked the base again. So that was also increasing. That's also increasing some tensions. Some Iranian-backed groups are continuing to become more aggressive against the military bases and our military bases there in Iraq. I think Israel, Saudi are going to take a more strong stance against Iran in the coming months, because it's a huge, for Iran to gain influence in that area would be bad news for Saudi and Israel. So and the U.S. I guess. So we will probably see some more aggression and conflicts arising in the area over there.
Hmm.
So I mean, Iran's trying to, because we kind of put a ban on Iran trying to sell their oil in the area, so they want to, and we also have sanctions, and we've also limited their nuclear enrichment, which obviously now they're starting to enrich more because we got out of the deal.
Hmm.
So Iran's trying to get more powerful in the area, and kind of become a strong like a adversary to the Saudi Arabia. So big Cold War going on right there. So we'll see to what extent this will grow. Um, this could very well end in a war, right? Maybe in a few years, if Iran does create a warhead, that would be insanely huge. We would definitely go into World War III at that point. So
I mean, at this
hopefully we
point, we're
can.
kind of asking for it. We spent 20 years, close to enough, really fighting against the Middle East. So, I mean, who knows what will happen in the future?
Yeah, well, um, right. So I mean, the whole thing is like we're allies to Israel, right?
Hmm.
And Iran's basically they're openly against Israel, like the Ayatollah and the current president, the heads of state are like they're openly for the destruction of Israel. So once they get like a nuclear warhead, it is complete all-out war. They will use it on Israel. So that would trigger a World War III, obviously, and there we need to kind of we need to dissipate this situation, and we need diplomatic talks, and we need to get rid of the sanctions because that's caused a lot of problems for the Iranian citizens. They couldn't get access to medicine and certain supplies. So we need to this is an issue that can only be solved with diplomatic talks and peace talks, and we need to work with the EU and Saudi Arabia and everyone to kind of to smother the problem and arising problems in the area.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a talk in depth that we can have for another time, just like the Middle East scrap alone, because with the way, U.S. is becoming more of an exporter of oil than an importer of oil, and relations have started to increase tensions. Iran's kind of starting to take advantage of this now. Um, so who knows what can happen next? But yeah, I think it's a great debate that we can have for another time with some other guests on the show. But yeah, I think that does it for us. Some stuff to watch out for this week. So we have Volkswagen's Battery Day. I think this is their first one that they're doing. So they're kind of getting on the hype train and trying to introduce some of their own new products. Yeah, as I mentioned before, refinancing has become a huge issue in the U.S. right now as the Treasury yields start to increase and are expected to reach 2% by Q2. So yeah, be careful out there if you're thinking about refinancing your home at all. If I'd say right now, if your interest rates are around 4% APR, I would say you can still have a chance to refinance and get a good rate, but anything below that, I don't think it's worth it with the closing costs at all. And lastly, Big Pharma has been very undervalued in my opinion, along with some infrastructure stocks. I think both of those could be great value plays for the future, for the remaining of 2021. Especially with Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson, they're all pushing out the vaccines now. I think we can expect them to start growing as companies due to the influx of cash they've gotten from the U.S. and all. And infrastructure is kind of the same way. I mean, we got the infrastructure bill coming out soon, so kind of hopefully that can regenerate some growth within that industry. And who knows, maybe spark another New Deal or Obama administration type-esque post-recession plan. But yeah, I think that does it for us this week. Thank you guys for listening and watching again. If you're watching on Spotify, make sure to follow and listen to us next week. If you're on YouTube, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. And we will see you guys next time.